Okay. Okay. So let's go and now kind of say, what do we now do? So it's kind of still not complete, but it's not a big deal. We'll just complete it. So now I want to, oh, and a few things now that you've added your, oh, I'm in the wrong one here. So let's go to its load. Maybe close a few things. Let's close this. Splash screen is fine. Let's close this. This is okay. Let's close the CS. This is okay. So we'll keep the design open and view the code here. Okay. Now, since I've added, the better way is just to go to design and double click on the form for the load, right? So I'm going to add a few more. Remember how I had my button clear enabled as false and my new order enabled as false? I want to do the same with my menu items too. So they were called TSMI. That's the clear item. Dot enabled is false. So that when you start, it's the same thing. And then your TSMI, and what was it called? New order. Dot enabled property as false. Just doing the same with both. So whatever I had with the button, I also have with my menu items now. To be consistent, right? I can't have them on in the menu and kind of have them off in the on the form. And again, I said, if you don't need buttons, just remove them. You don't even need them. It's up to you. Like those things are extra. Those are nothing to do with logic. Those are just manipulation. Remove it from here, remove it from the code, and so on. Okay, now let's see how do I add this font dialog. And if you'll notice, I'm in the all controls. You can pick them from wherever you are. I was just in here. There is a color dialog and there is a font dialog. There are two dialog boxes. So they're under definitely all controls. I have all my Windows forms open, so therefore they show up in mine. You can go to the dialog boxes and have it. Pick up a color dialog and pick up a font dialog. Right? Pick up a color dialog and pick up a font dialog. Now, these are through dialog boxes. So as I said, dialogues, right? Which you can now, you'll kind of associate them with your, and again, they will be available in, I just had this open, therefore. Here they are, right? They are under the dialogues ones too. So I picked up the color dialog and the font dialog. If you notice a few others, there is an open file dialog, which you can always, it's a dialog box that will come up when you want to open a file. The same thing that you see here when you go file open, right? When you say file open, that's the open dialog box. And then you have a save file dialog. Same thing that happens when you say save, a dialog box comes up and says, what file do you want to save and where do you want to save? And the folder browser dialog, when you want to browse, look for something. Okay, so those are the dialog boxes. For now, I'm only using the color and the font because that's what I want to use. Okay, so these are two dialog boxes that I have. And again, there is a little bit of manipulation you'll have to do here, like you had to do with your radio buttons, unfortunately, but we'll just do them. Okay, so let's do this now. Under, where was it? Under edit. Okay, so we'll create the two event handlers for font and also for color. Once I have them, you can kind of there. So create the two again. Of course, you can create it yourself if you like, but who wants to do that? Another way of doing it is you can go to design. You can select whatever you want. You can go to its event and then you double click in front of the event and the same stub will be created. Okay, it can happen that way too. That's another way of doing it, which is a longer procedure, but double clicking on it will only create a stub for the default event handler, which is the click. If that's all you need, you're fine. But for any other event that you want to create a handler for, you'll have to come here and then double click in front of whatever and it will create a stub for you. But when you double click on something, it just creates a empty stub for the default event handler. So the default method, if you've noticed, for buttons was click, for these menu items is also click because they are like buttons except that they are in a menu, right? So every control has its own default event handler. Okay, and that's what happens when you double click on the particular control. But that doesn't mean you can't write event handlers for any of the events. All you have to do is go to its events, double click in front of it, and there you go. It creates a stub for you. Okay, so now what do you want to do in font? I would like to change the font when my program is running. I would like allow the user to select a font for the output values. What else, right? That's all I can kind of think of right now because, okay, so that's what I will allow the user to do, right? So you can change the font, you can change the style, you can change it to a new one. Now it's always a good idea. It's not as if you have to do it. You can save the current font if you want, just in case if something goes wrong or whatever, though it's kind of, I don't find it of any use, but it's recommended that you always save the color font. Now, how do you work with fonts? The class is called font, and you can create a variable called current font, right? So font belongs, if you kind of bring your mouse over it, it's from system.drawing.form. Right? Notice the namespace system.drawing. And if you kind of can remember, if not, just scroll up. There is a using system.drawing up in your code, right? These using statements were automatically put when you created the class. It's just there. And as you use them, it kind of becomes from gray, it becomes black. They become active. So they were grayed out to begin with. Only one of them, system.windows.forms, is in black when you start. But as you use classes, that's what you do. It says the green squiggly only says this is declared but never used. So you can ignore it for now. So if you want to save the current font, you could, but you know what? It's not something that I usually do. But if you wanted to, this is all you do. You can do this. You can in your current font, and this is how you save it, just for your information. With your font dialog 1, save the current font if it is required for future, just to show you how it is done. I won't need it at all in my project today, but just so that you know that the current font can be saved by taking the font dialog 1 control and using its font property. And you know what? If you kind of bring your mouse, click on it and open the properties, and here are the properties, just a control. It's just a control. Right? So all I'm doing is I'm saving the font of the whatever is the current font into this current font if required. Again, as I said, it's up to you. Okay, now, so this is more to just how you save it. I won't need it, so I'll comment it out afterwards. Okay, now how do you show the dialog box for the font? Same as you did for anything else. So if you want, we can say show. This will come handy. Suppose the user said, you save the current font and then the font dialog comes up, and then the user does something like cancel or whatever. So you want to use the current font without any change. So it can be manipulated. You can use it. Okay, so what are we trying to do here? Sorry, show the dialog font, the dialog box. Okay. So it can be used. What was it called? Font dialog something. Oh, now it won't tell me. Control space bar. There it is. Okay, and the show dialog method. Right, so now it will come up on the screen. And of course, if you wanted to use its response, you could show the dialog, put it in a response variable, check if it is okay. The user does okay, then use it. If the user says cancel, use the previous one. It can be all manipulated, right? So if I wanted to do that, just to show you, I would create a dialog. I'll just put it in a different line because I would create a dialog result response. And I'm just putting it in a different line so that I can comment it out easily. And then I can do something like this. If the user says okay, like it's all programming, nothing else. So we can say if that response, oh, it won't show it to me till I can do something like this. If your response is okay. And remember, it was system dot something. I think system dot. It's not helping me. Okay. Maybe because it's already selected. Okay, dialog result. Yes, yeah, it's already selected. That's why. So you can always check. If it is yes, then you go ahead and do it. If it is not, then do whatever. Okay, like whatever. Okay, so I'm kind of just showing you that things can be manipulated, and you can do whatever. I'm just kind of doing the minimum. Okay, so I show the dialog to the user, and in the current font, I change to whatever the user has selected now. Oh, sorry. Save the current font is not how you save it. This one. Whoops, sorry about that. If you wanted to save the current font, how would you save it? Give me a minute. What was your output boxes called? Something to do with text something, right? There they are. Text item amount, text quantity, and so on. If I wanted to save the current font, what would I do? I'm kind of just taking it. I'm giving it a try, okay? Do I have a... Yeah, this is how I would save it if I wanted to save the current font. Right, so whatever is currently, you can save it like this. If the user does a cancel, you can reuse that. But I'm just to show you. Okay, here. So I'll comment this out also. So I'm just going normal. The dialog box comes up. Whatever the user chooses, you save it in current font. And now your text boxes, guys, take your text boxes. So text box subtotal, font property, set it to your current font. 1. Job number 2, there was another text box. It was called tax. There it is. Take its font and set it to current font. So, I mean, hopefully you can understand that things can be done. What was the third one? Total due. So what are the other? Oh, those are my input fields. That's why. Those are my input fields. So I did choose the right one here. Yeah, I did choose the right one here. There it is. Here. So the dialog box will come up. I just kind of assume that the user will do will select something. If not, still an OK is done or whatever, and it will be done. Do you think with the response, is there a yes or a no? Is there an OK? Yeah, there is an OK. We should be doing an OK here, right? Of course, it's going to be read out because there's no variable defined. Okay, there it is. I'm thinking there are OK and cancel buttons, not yes and no buttons on font dialogs. OK and cancel are the 2 buttons. Okay, so again, if you wanted to save the current font, and then you could say if it is OK, do this, else leave it alone, whatever. I mean, those things can all be done. But let's see if it works is the biggest thing. So what did I do? A font dialog box tool was created. It does not have a visual appearance on your form, but it comes in your component tray. I said show it on the screen for the user, and whatever is being selected from that will automatically go to current font and do it. And you know what? If the user doesn't do anything or do a cancel, nothing changes, is what I'm thinking. I mean, therefore, you don't need all these ifs. So let's try. Okay, so after 5 seconds, it should go away. Okay, let's try to do a 1, a cappuccino, and a calculate selection. And then go to edit and say font. Okay, if I don't, there is an OK and a cancel. So if I do a cancel, nothing should change according to me because I didn't change anything, right? And if I do a change, let's change something. Let's go bold. Let's go, I think bold is more than enough just to see if it bolds up, and do an OK. There it is. Right, that's how font changes. That's what you can change your font to. Notice how the bold, it has changed to bold. So if you go back again now and you go font and then change it again, it will just keep on changing. If you do a cancel, it will remain at the previous. So cancel is automatically working. I don't think I have to do anything extra. If you go oblique, and there it is. That's how you change fonts. As simple as that. You already have that font dialog. So it has an OK and a cancel button. That means you can manipulate it, right? You could manipulate it. I didn't do anything because it doesn't change anything if I do a cancel. So I'm just assuming that whatever is the font will be taken from the dialog box. So because something is highlighted, you can't unhighlight anything. You know what I mean? So I think we don't need to save the current font unless you want to. I have changed it and you want to save the previous one and reuse it. That's something different. But otherwise here the OK and cancel are kind of working on their own because something will be selected. You can't unselect anything from these 3 boxes. So an OK or a cancel will remain where it is. So it remains at oblique. Okay, so that's font, right? Now color won't be very different. So let's change the color. Now here is something that may not necessarily work. And I'll tell you why it doesn't work. And I'll tell you the get around to it. I'm not sure if they've done anything in the latest version. I doubt, but we can check. You can select the forecolor, you can select the back color, whatever you want. That's up to you. I'm just going to select the forecolor for the output. Okay, now, again, here I won't kind of go into comments or whatever. I'll just take a color, take my current color, declare a variable of this kind, show the color dialog box. It was called color dialog 1.show dialog. Notice there is no show method here. I mean, you have to respond to it. And now do the same thing. Take your color, save the color, selected color. And how do you save it? You have the variable called current color. And in there, whatever has been chosen in your color dialog, well, I have to go a little more. There it is. Whatever has been saved in your color dialog 1, take it. And logically speaking, this is all you have to do, right? Logically speaking. But I'll tell you why it doesn't work. So take your, it was called text subtotal. There it is. I mean, all three have to be done. Take its forecolor property. So there is a back color and there is a forecolor. And change it to this current color. Take your second text box. Take its forecolor property. So you can change back colors and forecolors, whatever you want, right? And change it to the current color. Take your third text box called the total due. Take its forecolor property. So there is forecolor, back color, there is no property called color. And change it to the current color. Logically, this should work, right? So I kind of didn't save any current and didn't put any ifs here so that, I mean, that was already done, just so that you know. Okay, so this is what I've done. And logically it should work. Let's try. Just so that you know if it works and why doesn't it work. So I'll tell you the manipulation in, okay, so let's try a quantity, a cappuccino, a calculate selection. We've already checked that the font is working. Let's try to put it in red and do an okay, but nothing happens. Right, logically there is nothing wrong in it. Now here is where the problem has occurred. And of course, it's a bug, but that's what it is. And it's not a big thing. You can manipulate it a little, but this is what has occurred. Since you made these boxes read-only, these boxes were text boxes and you made them read-only, notice what has happened. So let's take a normal text box. This one, it's a normal text box. Look at its property and look at its property called back color. Notice how it has a Windows back color of white. Do you see by default? Now let's look at something that I changed. So I'll take this one and I'll open up its properties and we'll go and look at its back color. And notice what has happened. Definitely, if I make it read only, it goes gray and it has changed to this control. There are actually three of them. There is a control, there is a custom, and there is a system, right? So that's what has happened. Now this is hindering it to change color. This back color is the biggest problem. So you have two options. You can change the back color also and the forecolor, or just so that you know. So see, this will work. If I take this, what was your quantity text box? Here. So my normal, just to show you, my normal text box quantity, this was a normal text box, white one. The text amount is also grayed out, okay? This one, if I change its forecolor to whatever I have and run it, come on. And you could start from here, I'm sure. See, this works. This is fine. So the property is working. The forecolor does get changed. So in a normal text box, it works fine. I haven't tried it in labels actually. Could be, I don't know. I haven't tried it in labels because I haven't used labels for output for a while now. But it doesn't work in the other ones because of this problem. And the problem is that you change its back color, because when you change its read-only property, you change its back color. So now there are two things you can do. You can make it read-only, but you can make it the same white as your quantity, right? So you just change its back color in its design. Some programmers are okay with it because they say, oh, that's fine, doesn't make any difference. But some programmers say that then it starts looking like an input box, and we don't want to make it look like an input. So you could do that. There's nothing wrong in it. And you'll say, how do I find that out? That's not a big deal at all. We have this already. We have this. We go to its property. We look at its back color. So B back color. There it. Where are you? Back color. There it is. Go to its windows and see. This is what it has. In system, it has the property. This is the one that is true by default, right? So if I do this for this one also, of my subtotal also, and I'll just show it to you once. Right, and go here, and instead of control, I change it to window, and that's how it will look, right? And let's run it. And it's still a read only, hopefully. Changing color should not make a difference. It's still a read only. I can type into it, except that it looks like as if it is a input box, right? Now if I say file and color, edit and color, and go to red, and do an OK and put a 1 there and say calculate. Oops, select a coffee. And see, it works. So the problem is the back color. We know the problem is the back color. The tab should not stop, and it is not stopping. I can go here, but I can't type anything because it's a read only. So if that's one of the solutions, right? That's one of the solutions. Change its back color. I just change it to white because I know it will definitely work. Maybe some other color works also. Something grayish works. I don't know. I haven't tried all colors. Too much of work, right? Too much of work. But the other option is, which is really silly, but the other option is, so what was it? Control, right? I think it was control. So I'll bring it back to what it was, and it looks fine. And the other solution is this. So the get around is really silly, but can't do anything about it. So these are basically unnecessary back color. So for you, changes when text boxes are made read-only. Hence, color does not change. So I'm going to make some irrelevant assignments here to make it work. You already know that you can do it by changing the color of the background, but this is really silly, but that's what we have to do. So take your text quantity and to its back color, assign it back. I have no clue why, but, and again, I had to Google it, right? Silly assignment, right? Take the back color and put it back in the back color. It's a silly assignment, irrelevant assignment. Oh, sorry, not quantity, subtotal. I didn't want to do it for quantity, guys. Anyway, I'll make that change and put it back. How silly can that be? I don't know, but that's what it is. Take your third text box, the total due, and its back color. Hopefully it will work. It used to work. I remember. I had to look it up, but it used to work in the previous version. And this is not quantity. This is subtotal. So I've proved to you that it works, except that the problem is the foreground color, the back color. So these irrelevant assignments should make it work. Should make it work if they haven't done anything else to it. And they are irrelevant. Notice I've taken the same variable, I've taken the same property and set it to the same property. But let's try. The 5 seconds are long, right? And there it works. But I don't know. Like, I don't know why it does, but that's the workaround. Like your auto check property, make it false and then make it true kind of stuff, you know. So you're doing the same thing. You're first saying make it false and then make it true. And that's the workaround. So of course, people have had this problem, and that's the workaround. So there are two solutions. I would say the more better one would be to change the back color to something else, not to white. White just makes it looks like a text box, like an input box. Try other colors like a lighter gray. I don't know. Like I haven't tried that. But this definitely, as you see, works. And if you see, they're irrelevant. They're absolutely irrelevant assignments. You took the back color and put it back into the back color. But that's what it is. So that's the workaround of getting the color work for those text boxes in which the background is not white, let me say. I'm not sure it works with which backgrounds and it doesn't work with which background. I have no clue with these back colors. I definitely know about these two because I use these two, right? We use the white one for the window one for normal text boxes. That's what it is, system window. And we just, I mean, this is the color. The control is the one when you change it to read only. So I know about these. Okay. Right. So that takes care of about box, which is a predefined template form. Splash screen, which something that you defined yourself. You created yourself. You've created a form. Making the splash screen come up on the screen and then making it disappear or closing it in 5 milliseconds. Remember to enable the timer and disable it. If time permits at the end, I'll remove buttons. But now the only thing that remains to be done is the summary button. Right? That's the only button, or it's not, there is no button, there is a menu item only. Again, if you wanted to add one, you could, but there is already a summary here that I want to now work with, right? So that's more logic now, that's just coding, more if statements, and when do you show the summary? If there is nothing, you say nothing is there, and so on and so forth. That's what we want to do now. Okay, so let's now complete that. And that's my last part of today, hopefully. Oh. Double click on your, so we've done everything now, right? And you know how now to share event handlers between different controls, which you did amongst all radio buttons last week. But now these are two entirely different controls. There was a button and there was a menu item, which is like a button, but a menu item. Again, you have the option of keeping everything, or you have the option of just letting it go. The Alt F4 we haven't tried, but I'm sure it will work, right? The Alt F4 will also work, right? You have associated with the exit. So again, you can create shortcut keys. They're called shortcut keys, which are different from keyboard access keys. Remember, in the keyboard access keys, you underline the word that you want to make the shorthand, but these are called shortcut keys. Okay, now last but not the least. So where was summary? There it is. So this is the only one that is missing. Everything else is complete. So double click on it. So the TSMI summary, again, you can add a button afterwards. You can make it share or whatever depends on you. So what is this summary is basically, for now, till now, this is what you are doing. You are basically, user or customer can come and kind of order coffee, and more than one coffees in more than one quantities can be ordered. The item amount gives the current item amount, and then the amount due is the check, is the complete bill, or what is due by the particular customer. Now, this company also wants you to keep accumulated totals of all that it has sold. How many customers came? What was the total that was sold, and so on and so forth. So which is more like a summary. It's not the summary of a customer. It is the summary of the shop, right? So I haven't mentioned the name of the company anywhere I see, except in, I think, my about or my splash screen, but you can always change this coffee selection to RNR for, like, I never realized I hadn't given anything, but it's just a text. So we'll just go RNR for reading, and just so that there is some connection between what I have and what I'm saying. So now this company says, I want to get or save or accumulate my totals also. So let's see how it has to be done. Now, the other thing that you may notice, I don't know, it's again a personal preference. When you have a menu on a form, the heading of the form kind of looks a little odd, because when you run it, mine is not too bad, but when you, maybe I should say 1 second for this. When you run it, see how, so I'm okay, like mine is not kind of coming over my heading, but sometimes when your menus are longer and you click on something, they might cover your They might cover your form titles or whatever. Here I'm not bad at all. See, even my input is not covered. But then you could say, oh, here also when we try to do something, it kind of comes over the form. So it's okay to do it. But if, I don't know, some people just don't write the headings when they have menus. I'll stick to mine because I always like heading on my forms. I want to know what you're talking about, right? So coffee shop or coffee selection or whatever, I would like to keep my heading, but it's up to you. If nothing is mentioned, if there are no marks, you can do that. But you know what? In the real world also, like things do cover up. Whichever ID you are using, it does cover up whatever you are doing. It's the same thing. That's an application that is running. And in an application, if I use a menu and it's a longer menu or it's spread out or whatever, it's okay that it covers part of the form. Sometimes you can't avoid it, and that's okay. Okay, so let's now go to where we were, and let's now start doing our summary. Now, definitely, if I'm going to work with summary, I need some extra variables, global or module level variables at the head. I hope you remember the use of global or module level variables or class variables as they are called. In C#, we call them module level variables. These variables, their use is that they retain their values. Local variables, you call the method, takes birth, values go into it, dead, right? That's what happens with local variables. But module level variables will retain their values while the application is running, till you basically do an application dot shut or you do a restart. Restart will also cause them to go to 0. And again, so in this case, I haven't done a restart. I don't want to restart every time my customer changes. Otherwise, how will I keep my information? So please avoid application.restart totally in your clear methods now. It was a quick and dirty way of doing it when I did it, but definitely logically it is not correct now. I don't want to lose information. Whenever I do clear, the customers, everything will go off. His or her subtotal will go off, and also my grand totals will go off, and I don't want to do that. So please don't do it anywhere. I will dock off marks if it is not making sense. Okay, so I need some more global variables or module level variables. One, I'm going to call it, I already have a total amount. I'm going to call it grand total. And again, if you wish to assign it to 0, sure, we already have talked about it. Objects are initialized to null and numbers to 0. So you don't have to say is equal to 0. You don't have to do it. And since I'm going to keep an account of how many customers I have, I'm going to use another int variable, of course, not a decimal, for the number of customers. And again, if you want to initialize it to 0, it's up to you. So please add 2 more module level variables to your code just because I need to do some summary here. Okay, now come back to, so please keep in mind what we've talked about, named constants. This will come handy in your midterm next week. I don't want to see any magic numbers in my code. Named constants everywhere. And I'll try my best to write all my expectations on the exam, right? So that you don't forget anything, but you will have to read them. Make a habit of reading. Okay, so let's come to wherever we were. Okay, this is a better way. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so now the user clicks on the summary button or the summary menu item, whatever it is, and the object of this is to show the summary information. Right, so summary information is saying how many customers were taken care of during the day or whatever, till you basically shut down and restart your application. The next morning is maybe when they do it. Till the end of the day, it will tell you, count the number of customers and so on. And that's all okay. Okay, and I will need some local variables. Believe me and take my word for it for now. So what was the average sale? Just showing you some more math, nothing else, guys. Because coding means just more. Taking a string, and I'm going to create a message string. Again, for summary, you could show a different form altogether if you want, or you can show it in a message box if you want. You already now know how to create forms, so it's not a big deal. But I'll keep my logical forms to another class. Here I've just used about and splash, which definitely are not interfering with my logic. But when I start using a summary form, I have to go to that form and then come back to my previous form. So that's kind of in my logic. So I'll kind of go lazy here and use a message string. Okay. Now, it could be that the user has clicked on the summary, but the current customer is still not done, right? You know what I mean? Like he or she has not done. And by chance you click on the summary, you always make sure that oh, are you okay? Did you want to click on summary, and is it okay to kind of let go the current customer? So if you remember, if there is a so customer is in the middle of an order. Again, remember defensive programming, taking care of everything. So by chance, the summary button or summary whatever was hit. How do we know that a customer order is going on? Remember that variable total decimal, total amount, right? If that is not equal to 0, that means the customer, there is an order that is in progress. Keep in mind, while it is not equal to 0, that means it is in progress. Okay, so if it is not equal to 0, ensure from the user that are you okay to do that order? And we've already done this. We've already have this new order click. So in a way, when something new that you're seeing here, you're calling an event handler, you're forcing an event handler to be called, though the user has not clicked on the new order button. But what have you done? You've said, oh, you said summary. The current customer is in an order. Are you sure that you want to go with a new order? Only then, and if the user says no, then this particular customer will not be added. If the user says yes, then this particular customer will also be added to your summary. That's the difference, right? Now, before I can use that customer count, which I will, but I have to manipulate it. So if your customer, what was it called? There it is. If the customer count is greater than 0, that means you did sell something today. If not, then of course it's something else. So we'll say else. Okay, so customer count greater than 0 means, I mean, the if statement is clear, customers have been served. And if no customers have been served, then I'll just kind of say, I'll show a message box. Remember, we've already done this message box. We are good at it now. Show it. And you can say something like no sales made yet. Again, remember, it's always a good idea to tell the user that there is nothing going on. So I may have not written the else at all. If there was a customer, I would have shown the summary, but otherwise I don't do anything at all. But this is a better way of doing it, just because it says no sales made yet, and so no summary to report. And again, please see that you always have a proper caption and everything and so on. That was your 2. Then you need the message OK button, which is of course the OK button. But also, why do I have this third parameter? Because I want to go my icon and say information, which you haven't used, but no big deal at all. And I don't think focus is required anywhere else, so we'll not focus anywhere else. So if, notice what I've done, if there are no customers yet that have been taken care of, I will always tell the user that there is no summary information to display. And this is again a plus point in a programmer's favor if they say, oh, I have to show something to the user. The user is sitting there and says, why is information not coming up? Is something wrong? So I say, yes, no, something it's just not there. Okay, now for the other, I'm kind of oh, I called it average decimal by habit, guys. You know what? This is just a habit. Till last, maybe 2013, till Visual Studio 2013, the convention was, and this is just by habit, the convention was, it's a good idea to name the type with the, I won't do it because I'm not doing it, to name the type with the name. So average decimal, because it was a decimal variable. String, message string, since it was a string variable. And I just did it by default, right? So I won't do it just because I'm not following that convention anymore. But if you see it, it was just an idea to say that you don't have to go and look back to see what kind of variable it is, because the type comes with the name. And programmers liked it, but some programmers really hated it. Anyway, that's beyond the point, but I'll come back to what it was. Take your grand total and divide by the customer count. That's how you find the average. And again, remember, it is greater than 0. So I won't have exception problem. If I didn't check this and I simply said average is equal to grand total by customer count and my customer count was 0, boom, I'll have a runtime exception, right? Division by 0 is a runtime exception. And now I have taken care. Okay, so take your average and I'm going to create my message right here. So just so that it is easy. Okay, so let's create the message. Number of customers. This is just message, okay, or number of order. Oh, let's not say, it doesn't matter because one customer can order more than once. A plus for concatenation. Take your customer count, convert it into a string. And if you haven't paid attention, definitely from exam point of view, please see that you know about all that can go in this toString. I've used currency. P is for percentage. F is for float. And if you wanted 2 places after decimal, you would give 2F, for example, just to show it to you. Very silly, but just to show it to you, or 1 place after decimal. I would definitely use an integer here or just leave it alone, but just so that you see. 1F is for floating point. Now, number of customers never looks good with floating point, but anyway, just to show you so that you know. Okay, then what do I want to show? I want to show the total sales. If you want to go to a new line, you of course have the option of going \n. And if you remember from first class, I had also shown you another option, which I will again. And we want to show the total sales. And in the total sales, I would like to show that variable. And that variable is called grand total. And convert it into a string. And here would be a good place to use the currency. The plus, and I'll use the other one, the environment one. Where are you, environment? Here, new line. That's another way of doing it, just for your information. And then show the third thing is, what do we want to show? Average sales. So the point of showing average sales here was simply so that I could show you the division by 0 thing and kind of say, please take care of these things. And then the average converted into a string. The average sales, these are average sales. So again, a C. Oops, again a C. There it is. So the 1F, just to show you how a floating point number, 1F means 1 place after decimal. I think D is for integer, right? And these are all on your notes somewhere, on your PowerPoint slides. I just remember them off my head because I've used them a few times. C for currency, P for percentage, right? So all these are available. And if you need them in your exam, then please see that you have it. So I have the average, I have the message, and now I'll just do a message box. It saves me kind of writing all that in the message box. Show method. And in my show method, I'll show the message now. Oops. I'll show the message. The summary information is good enough, or coffee sales, what did we call it in the coffee sales summary is a good enough caption. Oh, I have to still mark your exception handling one, right? The OK button. And what is this information? So message box icon. And what was it called? Information. There it is. So the message was only created so that I could write it here instead of here, and it's better. Okay, so summary is okay. But where am I incrementing the customer count up by 1? Where am I adding to the grand total? All this has to now go in the calculate, right? All this code has to go into calculate, which is not a big deal. But the summary won't show you anything right now because grand total is always 0. Customer count is always 0. So you will never have a result, right? So if I kind of run it, and my customer count is always 0, and if I go, no sales made yet, no summary information to display. And unfortunately, even if I make sales, just how I've written it, I'll always get nothing. Oh, new order. Oh, this was in the order. It still says no sales summary to be made because I haven't manipulated it. So where do we need to manipulate it? In the calculate method. So go to your calculate. There it is. Double click on it. There it is. So this is where we have to now kind of manipulate it, right? So in here, we were already doing whatever we were doing and so on and so forth. But now when the user does a calculate, Remember we had this try, did everything and then did my calculations. Right here in my calculations, I'll do this. What's your first job? Take your customer count and increment it up by 1. Right? So increment the customer count. Oh, no, not the right place. Because the user can be doing calculate every time. Where should I increment it by 1? This will increment it as many times as the number of orders also placed by a customer. So should I do that? Number of orders? No, okay, so that's not the right place. Where should I do it? Think about it. I have a okay. Not here then, not here. Can do it because remember a customer can place more than 1 orders. A customer can place more than 1 orders. So let's do it here. Okay, here, somewhere here. So before the displaying, I'm going to do this. Add the totals to the grand totals, to summary totals. I was making that mistake because, or what do I do? Where am I? Am I in the wrong place? Think about it, guys. Logically think, where should this code go? Adding totals to summary, adding everything to summary totals. Where does the new order? There you are. Not in calculate. Calculate is doing the current. But every time the user says new order, we want to take all this information and put it in summary. There, that makes sense now. So where is your new order? Here. There it is. Okay, so here. So we said, yes, the user wants to, are you sure you want to place a new order? The user said, yes, you cleared the buttons. And so, okay, here is where we do it. Wherever, doesn't matter if you do it right in the beginning, but the clear the input, enabled, clear, and so on. So you can do it anywhere you want. Really doesn't matter. Let's do it here. In the beginning or the end, doesn't. So if the user says, yes, I want to do it, add the totals to the summary totals. Can do it in calculate because then it will do it every time. I don't want to do it every time. You have, I mean, I thought and I was kind of correct, but if you think about it, summary totals only go when the user goes new order. That's when totals are added. Okay, so add the totals to the summary totals. So if that means this is again just defensive programming. If your subtotal amount is greater than 0, that means some order was made. It may just happen that you're clicking on the new order button without any reason. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just taking care that I don't make a mistake. So if your subtotal amount is greater than 0, take your grand total and to it, if you know the short form, add the total decimal. Make sense? Are all of you aware of this? Take the previous value of grand total and add the total amount to it. Okay, that's one job done. Now increment your customer count up by 1. Here is where it makes sense. Right? What else do we want to do? Average we are calculating there. Oh, can't do this here, guys, because I am to use it and then I have to initialize it. Here, do it here now. Remove those two of subtotal equal to 0 and total amount here because this is checking it. Just move their positions. We had it here. After the clear, I had set them to 0. So here are only controls, which is okay. It's better that I just am clearing the controls. This is just clearing the controls. When I say clearing, I don't mean like clearing means whatever I have to do with them, disabling them, enabling them or whatever. So that's clearing the controls separate. Then I'm adding the totals to summary total and then I'm kind of putting back, reset the order total. Remember, these are order totals. So can I, sorry for the confusion, but I'll kind of go up and see if you have everything I have. So I am in the new order button click. I haven't changed its name. If you have, it's up, then you find the right one. I ask the user, are you sure you want to place a new order? If the user says yes, I clear the controls. You had this code before. I just removed the 2 lines from there of initializing to 0 because I added the totals first and then I reset it to 0. That's all I did, just so that they're in sequence. So clearing everything, controls, adding to the totals, and then clearing the subtotals. Remember, all these are module level variables. But I don't want, I have to set these to 0 because these are the totals for the next customer. So I have to do them, right? I have, whenever the user says new order, these have to go back to 0. But please, these have never to be set to 0 again, because while the application is running, it's customer, any number of customers. Okay, let's now try. Anything else? Anything else that I have missed? So we've added the code to the new order. We've written the summary total. Kind of looks okay to me. I don't know. Oh, we had, where did you enable those buttons? Okay, another thing just occurred to me, because double click on calculate selection, guys. Remember where you are here. Check takeout enabled is false, button order here. Add these here. The two that you have disabled. TSMI. Clear item has to be enabled just because it has the same job. And therefore you don't keep buttons and menu items. Then you have to remember so much. TSMI, button, new order. Here it is. Enabled. Otherwise they will never be enabled. I just remember them because they are right here.
Where are you doing that?
After the user calculates selection, okay, this is what it is. Let's start. I'll show you. When the form starts, these two were disabled. Come on, right? These two were disabled. As soon as the user hits and makes the order, they become enabled. But I forgot to enable them here. Now they're enabled because I did, but I disabled them in the beginning in the load, and now I'm enabling them. Right? As I did for calculate. In the load, I had disabled them. Here, see, I had disabled them in the load.
Yeah.
And so I am now enabling them in the calculate. Okay. You can, I mean, of course, you may forget a few things, but as you run, you will recollect that things are missing. So now the only thing that needs to be checked is my summary working? That's my last thing to be done in this form, right? And then, Joel, were you successful in that progress bar, showing the progress bar?
Actually, I did it. It loads 100%, but it loads ahead of the timer. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it go with the timer.
Yeah, and with the timer. And the increment is not working. The increment one.
Increment, by 1 is when I put that in what I just did. It just only adds 1. It doesn't increment
by a second or something. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Joel had asked me a question about a progress bar, and we were trying to figure it out during the break, but the time went off, so we didn't figure it out, but he's working on it. I'll show you what his question was.
If you set the increment to 100, then it loads to 100. Other than that,
is that 1 millisecond or what is it? What does the increment method do?
It's basically just like any
increment.
Yeah, increment.
I thought it is kind of linked with the timer's time, is my thinking. Okay, so let's see if this works. So we'll go slow in the sense easy. So 1 cappuccino, calculate selection. So that's $2. That's $4, and that's $6. One customer done, $6. Okay. Okay, so takeout is back. They become, and all this will happen. Where was this? Disable again. New order. We did that, I think. No, forgot. See, these are disabled. New order and clear for next item are disabled when? Somewhere. And I have to disable them in my menu also. When did they disable? Okay, I'll have to go and check. Okay, so 6. One guy did 6. One customer. So if I kind of look at summary now, number of wrong thing. It's not 1F, then it's F1. Okay, so it's $6, and it's saying, what do you want? Why are 3 buttons coming? Okay, so let's abort. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back to where am I making the mistake in summary? So I have messed up something in summary. 3 buttons are coming up, which is not what I want. So wrong. Okay, so the first one is not F, but it is F1. So that should take care of 1. Why is it showing 3 buttons? I should have done it. Abort, retry, ignore. Nothing. There is no magic, guys. It's your mistake. Okay. And what else was it? Okay, so those were the two problems. Oh, the disabling, I think it should be happening in new order, because if the user says yes, there it is. See, there it is. New order, I had disabled the clear buttons, but I hadn't disabled my. So the more you have, the more you have to take care. So definitely, we are kind of building on the same UI, and therefore I have to kind of take care of these things. But definitely, if you had said, oh, I don't want buttons to start with and only menu items, then it would have been less work. But that doesn't mean you don't know where to do it. So we'll take the new order, and then we'll take, what was the other one? Clear, something to do with clear. TSMI exit. There it is, clear item. Okay, so that's called clear, and this is called clear item. I just know where to do it because I have them already there. Okay, so that will take care of disabling the menu items also. Okay, now let's try again. Uh-oh. Just because the OK was not in capital, do you think? And it couldn't do it itself? Here, select it yourself. There it is. Okay. Okay, so it's working fine to begin with, in the sense, if I go file summary, if I go file summary, it will say no sales made yet. Good enough? One job done. I'm trying to do a quantity of a cappuccino, and I say calculate selection, and I say shows me the summary, and it says, are you sure you want to place a new order? It's kind of saying, therefore I add in the summary. If I say no, I stay here because no sales have been made. But if I say yes, uh-oh, I already did it. And if I say summary and I say yes, this order gets added. And notice this is the F1 that I was talking about. Looks untidy. Number of customers never looks good with decimal points. But this is just for your information if you need it for your exam next week. Right? So we've seen a C, we've seen F. For your information, there is P for percentage, D for decimal, and so on. So we'll definitely remove that. If you don't do anything, it automatically, I think, goes to decimal, integer. Okay, so that's taken care of. Now, if I place another order, so only one order has been done, right? And I again do summary, and I say no, and it says, okay, so that's what remains, the previous ones. Okay, so we are good. Now let me add this. So there is one other person. You can go new order from here also, nothing stops you. And now if you see summary, there are two people. So customer orders are 2, average sales are 3, and the total sales are $4 and $2. So the logic is working fine, right? And that's your job to check if the logic is working fine. And so now the only thing you have to do is that, okay, that 1F, which was looking so untidy, I think it's a D if I'm not mistaken, for integer, though it doesn't matter. If you don't give anything, it will automatically convert it into a string, and whatever is the integer will come on the screen, and that's fine too. That's fine too. So 1F was just so F1. I don't know why I remember. I think because from Java you say point to F, you put the 2 before. So I'll give a quantity of 1, cappuccino, calculate selection, new order, yes, file, summary. There it is. That's the 2 string without anything. By default, I'm just saying show me as a string. I don't want to format it. You could say a D2, 2 places for decimal, and then it would show you a, and you can also say, you can also force it to show a 0, 0, 1, 0, 2. I forget, but you can. I forget now. I don't know. I could be wrong. Does it leave a blank or does it do? I can't remember. But these are just formats, so it's not a big deal. You can figure it out. Come on. Oh, I haven't placed it. Oh, guys, remind me when I'm doing it. Otherwise, what's the use of putting it on GitHub if you don't get it as I go on? Yeah, see, there it is. So I did a D2. I'm saying I need 2 places for my integer. So it writes it as 0, 1. Some people want to do it. Now, if I was formatting it better, all my headings at the same place and all my numbers, I would go this route. But you know what? I think we are okay. Like I'm not so fond. Whatever is the value will look good. So you now know D2s and F2s also. You already know Cs. P is for percentage, just for your information, right? So that takes care of what I needed to do today. Unfortunately, you can do your in-class today. Of course, you cannot. And I don't want you to give it to take home because the other section, I won't be seeing them now for this class. You know what I mean? Like I can't. So we'll do it after we come back. Okay, we'll do it after we come back. So now this is the completed project. It would be nice if you could just remind me as I go on. I don't know, because you do lose me, right? Because just because I'm doing it so quickly in the sense that Okay, so it's all on GitHub now. And I'll also put it on Blackboard. So whatever we've done today, I'll put it on Blackboard so that you have it. Any questions? Any questions at all on what we've done? Right, so we have 8 minutes. I can answer your questions if any. So I haven't seen your exception handling assignment from last week. If I get the time, I will try to mark it without your presence. If not, I don't want to disturb you during your exam day, but if you're okay, you can show it to me on your exam. I don't know. I'm hoping that I can give you a practical hands-on exam. That's my intention right now. Right? And if that's how it will work out, you will definitely be allowed to use your examples, whatever we do in class, your assignments, and no internet access is what's the most important. Because internet access allows you to go and then Google for solutions, and I don't want you to do that. That's the main thing. So the only thing is you'll have to be honest, and I'll have to kind of go around and see that no internet access, you're not doing anything except Blackboard hours, because you'll have to submit your submission on Blackboard. So you will create the interface. So this is almost 90% what it will be as soon as I get a yes from the IT, and I'm hoping I will, because it's not a big thing, but with your bring your own devices and wireless, it kind of becomes difficult for them. You know what I mean? They can either close it, and I can't, because, or if they say we can just close it, then you can give me your projects on a USB. I can bring a USB with me and just collect it. You know what I mean? And I can give you paper copies of the exam. So that's one way of doing it. That's one way of doing it. So 90% I'm leaning towards a practical exam. You will create the interface completely yourself. You will write the code to make it work. It will be something that is doable in 3 hours. While you are in class, you won't be able to leave the class. No phones, nothing at all, because things have been going on last semester, which unfortunately have made me think again about how I do my exams. So when you come to class next week, please get your coffees and your breakfast or whatever you want with you, right? You will not be allowed to leave the class till you're doing the exam. I know there could be some bio breaks, and it's kind of difficult. I have to keep a watch on you. While you go, I'll have to just keep a watch on you. It's just how it is, guys. I'm sorry, but as I'm saying, I'm not saying you guys are dishonest, but it's some measures I have to take, of course. I've had this problem last semester. Okay? So that's what I'm leaning towards. So if you don't hear anything from me, it's a practical exam. If the IT says no, then I'm going to post something on Blackboard. Okay? Otherwise, it's a practical exam. Is that clear, Nikhil? Till I don't, if there's nothing, that's what it is. Okay? If I forget, though, I'll make a point of putting it on Blackboard. So whatever I have done today is now going back on Blackboard. Yes? I do have 5 minutes. I'm kind of tired, but there were a few first guys.
I just remember last section. Last week when you went to mark my new class in the previous week, I did that's not homework. They said you would do it now.
I remember some people like to open that. I have 5 minutes, so I can. So students who were not able to show it to me last week, I can do it. By the time Rich comes, I'll just kind of vacate my.
That's the second one you want to see?
No, I'm just seeing. I missed some people's first one, I think. No, how many have you done? 3. Second one, you've already shown it to me.
I don't know if I can show you the next one. It's like,
Yeah, I did that.
I have you for George for the second one.
okay, cool.
You're done.
Put a cone on Blackboard?
I will. When I go to my office, I will. Okay, I will. I'm just in a hurry right now. I just want to vacate the